Josh Hammer.
Yeah, this lady fucking hates me. And this guy, she always has this guy on to talk shit. It's so funny.
They have like the same, their eyebrows are the exact same shape. I think that there is a very vocal contingent of people who know like half of a thing, half of like one fact or something, and are just like primed to respond in a certain kind of way to stuff they see involving people on the internet whom they recognize or not. I don't know.
Do you find it strange how much Israel is also like Israeli agents of Hasbara are also
I'm sorry. Are
participating?
you telling me? Are you asking me about whether I thought it was fucking weird that Nas Daily
was stalking me in fucking Cuba?
Yeah, no, I think it's like listen, we are going to send the
one of the greatest. We
are going to send one of Israel's greatest lol cows. We are going to be sending. No, that's what the I was like, what the fuck is that guy doing there? And then like it was really funny because I only saw a couple of his posts after he had arrived or whatever, and so it's like, did he go there just to like
I think
annoy you? And now he's like, what is he even doing?
But
there?
He couldn't even like. I guess he couldn't find me at all when I was there because I was too busy fucking doing shit, right? And because I spend like basically I have like 8+ hours of recording, nonstop of just like interviews. I interviewed Cosio for like 2 hours, which is crazy. Interviewed doctors and Belly of the Beast, by the way. What a fucking
great
gem of an operation. Fuck me. Reed is such a stud.
I mean, Reed's the man.
He is the fucking man.
No, Belly of the Beast is wonderful. Those are people who do incredible things with such few resources.
Yeah,
it's astonishing.
Yeah, they're brilliant. They're fantastic. Anyway, but what I was saying is, so they set up a lot of their the people that they had actually put in their documentaries, because like this is all about sharing and trying to get the fucking word out, basically, right? And I cannot recommend Belly of the Beast enough. They have such incredible high fidelity, high def, impactful, high impact docu-series out there. They're phenomenal. But in any case, also obviously Blowback Pod as well. Season two on Cuba is
in our new season about Angola, which is a central story of it is about the Cuban intervention,
about how the Cubans have occupied other countries.
Oh yeah, no, the Cubans invaded Angola at the well. This is the thing. It's actually a world historic first. It is the first time that one country invaded another country at the invitation.
Well, that's not the first time,
country.
Because if you recall, how could you forget famously when America invaded the UK during World War II? This was a massively consequential invasion.
It's actually really true. The first part of Band of Brothers is about that.
Yeah,
is actually about the American invasion of the UK, which then, by the way, I'm a bit of a history nerd, so you guys should know this. In the 1960s, there was a British invasion. And that was when the Beatles and all them came over.
Yeah,
and that was the other way around.
Yeah, it's just like there's always invasions happening, and you need to stay woke. You need to stay woke to know these kinds of different invasions. I have to pee real quick, but I just wanted to hear you can go off on your opinions about the mass disinfo campaign and shit while I go do that real quick. I'll be back in a second.
All right, how's it going, chat? Cuban embassy. Oh yeah, the Cuban proposal. I don't know what Hasan has already said about it. Although it's worth saying that, Cuba has made offers to compensate expropriated owners since like the 60s. Yeah. Hi, Dad. How does he look at this shit all day? It's fucking nuts. Yeah, I hope you guys, were patient for him coming back, because I know the stuff that he's been working on is really exciting, and I'm excited to learn more about the footage he shot. It was very, very sad that I couldn't go, but I also did get to go earlier this year with Brendan, and like a couple weeks after the Maduro kidnapping. Our second to last day there was the day that they announced the oil blockade. So I got to see some firsthand of what I'm sure has gotten a lot worse in terms of the situation on the ground. And now I'm just acclimating to this West Coast weather. I should just diarize. Just do like a vlog, talk about my day. All right.
What?
Babysitting's over. He's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Did you talk yet about the drop site report? I saw you pulled that up.
Yeah. I brought it up a moment. I brought it up briefly in the beginning. No, a big fan of your work in the Book of Genesis.
Yeah, it's.
Can you please tell us how to get off Twitter? Your Cuba trip made it to Sky News Australia. Wait, is it a lefties losing it moment?
Lefties losing.
Think of that, and in this convoy to Cuba is a very high-profile streamer, Hasan.
Oh, it's a Josh Hammer.
Yeah, this lady fucking hates me. And this guy, she always has this guy on to talk shit. It's so funny.
They have like the same, their eyebrows are the exact same shape, and they both look like they're unhappy with Hasan Piker.
Yeah, it's awesome. Hasan Piker is one of the most scummy, villainous individuals in all of US media. Lefties losing it. That's the name of the she has a segment called Lefties Losing It where she talks about that. Anyway, move a little bit to the right.
This is how we're doing it now.
This is how we no, not all the way. Not all the way. Come a little bit closer.
They're talking about a matter of inches.
All right, bro, that's it. Dude, it's important. I want to make sure that this is like perfect.
What in God's name is he doing in Cuba, Josh?
What's name is he doing in fucking Cuba? Sorry.
A multi-million-dollar property. He's got a massive following, very wealthy, and yet he advocates for Marxist ideology. Make it make sense to me, Josh.
Make it make sense. There's never been a wealthy socialist before.
I can't make it make sense. Hasan Piker is one of the most scummy, villainous individuals in all of American media, and that is frankly saying a lot.
That was awesome. Sorry. Scummy and villainous individuals in all of American media.
I have this profound effect. I don't know what it is, but like people who are, you know, like Hasbro operatives, when they fucking, the mere mention of my name causes them to get aneurysms. It's awesome.
The stuff that this guy says is just frankly heinous. He frankly sounds like a Nazi sometimes, speaking about Israel's doing the Jews. That's really not an exaggeration. I mean, he speaks glowingly of what Hamas did on October 7th there. He's outright praising it, much like Zoran Mamdani's wife there. He is a self-avowed
much like Zoran Mamdani's wife
is as
there.
out there as it gets. And the worst part, Rita, is that he is welcomed. Indeed, he is feted, he is lauded by many Democrat officials. Most recently, he was voted.
Yeah, that's right.
Woo! That's the worst part. Like, the worst part isn't that I'm like, that betrays the severity of the statement. If I'm like a Nazi, right, and I'm like mass producing like Nazi propaganda, why would it be the worst part that like the Democrats welcome me? Like, that wouldn't be the worst part. The worst part would be the Nazi propaganda that I'm mass disseminating with or without the Democrats like aiding me, right?
Well, no, it's actually, this reminds me of, this is how like right wingers in the Cold War used to talk about libs, where it was like how, you know, how he's talking about referring to Democratic politicians here, like William F. Buckley. But like, you see, the thing is, the liberals are worse than the communists because they're dupes. They're dupes. They don't know that they're being used like this, and that's like clearly what the idea is here: is that you are duping. You are duping. You are doing takia. You are doing tricks and shenanigans.
Just like my Shia goat Zogron. I'm gonna see him this weekend, so I gotta cool it on this Zogron talk. Oh man.
The Epstein Files obsessed congressman out of California there. He was saying that Hasan Piker was great. I stand with Hasan Piker there. It's just disgusting stuff. But I will say, I've actually been to Cuba. It's pretty rare for Americans to go. I've actually been to Cuba. I've seen it for myself. You cannot possibly see Cuba, Rita, which along with North Korea is probably one of the last examples of true legitimate communism remaining on planet Earth. This utterly failed, horrific, murderous
Hasan Piker and other American subversives are breaking the law by staying at prohibited hotels on the current trip. It's not, by the way. To rescue Cuba's failing Castro regime, prosecute these miscreants.
Maybe learn the law first.
Yeah,
buddy.
It's so funny that they on the one hand.
Yeah, actually, no. Oh, we forgot, Hasan. Before we sent you to Cuba, there was all these all this planning, all these research. We forgot.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we made the really obvious fuck up, which is why you're now sitting in Los Angeles and made it here back safely and easily.
No, literally.
Oh, because you. Oh my God.
It's fucking hilarious.
Bro, these people are not serious.
But this one was awesome because they unironically reveal how stupid this restriction actually is.
Yes.
Because they got really excited to try to get me prosecuted by the federal government. By the way, Assange just broke the U.S. law. Oh, and he can face $250,000 fine and up to 10 years of prison once he gets back to the States. Do you think that that's a fucking valid thing? Like, even if I were to have violated his OFAC restriction.
You know what? Something tells me that High King Fëanor, Alpha Chad of Middle Earth, I listen, man. I'm pretty good at sensing the veracity of sources here, but something tells me that guy may not be playing with a full deck.
Yeah, but it's just fucking nuts that most other people are too busy doing they stayed in 5-star hotels on their own volition, and then first they were like, oh, they stayed in 5-star hotels, oh, they're fucking they're assholes, all this shit, and now there's other people being actually. They didn't do that because openly admitting that there is this ridiculous American restriction on where you can stay if you fucking go to Cuba. I much prefer
it's
this.
Also there's so much if you're going, it's also the truth is also a lot of these rules were loosened under Obama, and so there is a greater degree of freedom in how Americans can visit Cuba and where they can stay and so on. That said, even when I went, there are a bunch of rules that you do abide by in terms of not partaking in tourism activities and things like that aren't part of an itinerary, an approved itinerary or whatever. There are actual rules and guidelines that people follow. And if any of these people wanted to pick up the phone and call, I don't know, one of the zillion travel agents in the U.S. that does organize these kinds of trips and has some passing familiarity with it, I think that they would soon learn that the $250,000 fine and that prospective prison time for you isn't really on the table.
Yeah. But you rode on air-conditioned buses. Yeah, it's just don't stay in the communism hotel. That's illegal, bro. You don't want to know what would happen. It's really bad. I swear to God, bro. Yeah. It's
also,
utterly ridiculous.
You know what everyday Cubans are really pissed about getting right now? Foreign currency coming to their...
I know. Everyone, you went too. You experienced it. We were walking around. We were walking around town in Old Havana, and every Cuban that we encountered were like, "Oh, why are you here? I hate that. I hate that you're here. It's the worst thing." That's what they were saying. If you look at the internet, that's literally, dude. It was unbelievable. I saw all of these accounts after the fact from a day prior, because the Twitter algorithm is totally busted and it shows you tweets from a day prior, and it was these guys the Cubans are rising up and they're surrounding the hotel right now, and there's armed guards defending the Americans in the hotels. The Castro regime is turning on their own people. I was bro, I was in the hotel. It's not a thing that happened. You just made it up, and it's super viral.
I mean, but this is where it gets to the level of some of it is that there's not an immediate count because there's an information gap.
Yeah.
Because it's Cuba, because it's not as connected and plugged into what's going on, and there aren't also a bunch of eyes on the street there that can immediately rebut it. You can spin a narrative very quickly here any set of ways.
Yeah, because the people that are there also don't have access to the internet either, so they can't just see the shit that's going around and counter it in real time. It's fucking insane. It's totally insane. Anyway, let's finish this, and then I'm going to move on to situation monitoring, where we got to talk about the spectacular success of Operation Epic Fortnite, Operation Epstein's Fury, whatever you want to fucking call it. Massive success.
I've just been going with epic fail.
Yeah, epic fail. W's all around. W's
and
abound.
when you actually see Cuba, when you see this beautiful water, Havana could be in a...
Okay, whatever. Actually, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm done with this shit. This person was also going through the conversation, all the fucking psyops. This is the last video I'm gonna watch. And then, what is this? Wearing a $5,000 fit.
Oh, well, this is like
to tell poor people capitalism is bad is wild. Dude, why are they doing Depop? Do they not understand when you're fucking rich and famous, people literally send you shit? Like, do you not get that? I mean, maybe you don't. And some I purchased on my own, of course, but like, what is this? Like, what is this fucking Depop shit? Like, oh, get this fit. They got the wrong watch, missed by $300. Yeah, it's actually the luxury model. Yeah, it's more expensive than that. Yeah, breaking news, dude. I'm rich. Yeah, motherfucker. Piker Broadcasting Service, baby. Sponsored.
I mean,
by
I will say, look,
you the people for you the people, motherfucker. That's how it is. Voluntary subscriptions.
When Brendan and I went, we did, out of respect for the Cuban people, we took off our shoes and walked around with our feet in Kleenex boxes.
Well, I'm glad that you did that.
I didn't want the people of Cuba to have to see my New Balances.
Yeah, they would have been very offended.
It would have been very offensive.
Would it not be more performant to go out and buy some fucking Walmart does places to go to?
Yes, exactly. That is correct. That is the exact right attitude. Is that the actual like insulting thing
also,
would be if you did like if
the Cubans have drip.
Yes, they do have drip. I mean, it's, and also like there's like, I think something that has like been kind of interesting is also, as I'm sure you saw, is that like there is in Cuba, like it's not like huge, but part of what the Obama thaw like produced was something of like a private sector, and also the increase in remittances from abroad and the amount of money that comes in from abroad that does allow certain people, like certain classes within Cuba, to have access to these goods. So it's like there is like, it's not like people there haven't fucking seen a Cartier like glass, like haven't seen nice glasses before.
Yeah,
there's a kind of, I mean, it's like, I'm not surprised, but it is a little bit like it's clear that there's like an enormous amount of ignorance about the most basic facts there.
Yeah. It's just all of it literally reduces to if you are in any way, shape, or form, like better off
also,
than the average.
Embrace so dirty. In that,
Yeah.
That's so fucking funny. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's really, it's like, oh wow, look at this rich fucking, like look at this asshole, this guy's piece of shit, and then look at the guy next to him who doesn't matter. He's actually, that shirt he's wearing is for pores, the jeans too, that little hat.
It's crazy how all the criticism about you having money and using it all stem from communities of other wealthy people who don't do nearly as much activism as you. FD Signifier himself said that none of us are ever going to know about 99% of the instances of you putting your money where your mouth is, nor should we. Yeah, you will never know. Well, hopefully you will never know. Okay, let's be real. Anyway, rich and wannabe rich guys see you as a class trader. I know, but like, you know what it reminds me of? Low key. It reminds me of like white supremacist guys that will be like, you're a race trader. It almost feels that way where you're like, why are you doing this? You should not be advocating for the poor. You should be sitting around and being like, I'm rich. It's fucking awesome. Maybe one day you'll get there. And like lie to the people.
This has always been like, this is like whether you're talking about like Gore Vidal or Oscar Wilde, like there has always been a tradition of like when somebody who comes from the upper classes and espouses left-wing politics that are outside the established norms of acceptable mainstream discourse within their country, like this is a natural byproduct of it. Now, when you look at like, well, traditionally, out of what classes do radical politics bring, at least in terms of the idea level, if not like like as the class with like the the ability to have agency over society or whatever, it is a class of like educated people with me. Like it's not. This is like a thing that happens over and over and over again, and for as long as there are socialists in a capitalist society who espouse such attitudes, there will be this like very aggravating and facile.
What's the alternative? What's the alternative for me to just like sit around and be like,
vow of poverty? I mean, that's that's what they want. They want every socialist.
But then it's LARPing.
I agree. That's what they think though. Like they believe that the LARP is the real.
No, but like it also is the exact same thing where it's like, oh, you sit around at home and you chirp. you don't do anything, right? You sit around and you don't do anything. It's all bullshit. You're fake. So when I do actually take my ass out and go do things, then they go, oh, you're performative. You're performative. Okay. It's a double bind. There is no world where they will give you props, which this is not about that anyway. It doesn't fucking matter. Who gives a shit what these goddamn monsters say? They're fucking evil.
About people coming here to Cuba to deliver humanitarian aid are very interesting to me. One of the headlines and some of the commentary that I've seen is in terms of all of the people that came here and they stayed at a 4-star hotel while the rest of Cuba was in darkness. I want to remind you all that while it's not illegal for American citizens to come here to Cuba, it is absolutely illegal for us to stay in any of these hotels that you see on this screenshot. We cannot stay at all of these listed brand hotels. We cannot stay at a mom and pop hotel. We cannot stay at anywhere that is Cuban owned in Cuba, because that was instated by your United States government. And those who do stay with Cuban families, because the first time I came to Cuba in November, I stayed with a family. They actually have to take our passport numbers and register us because of our United States government. Again, it is not illegal for American citizens to travel to Cuba. However, just like the sanctions and the blockade, the United States government makes damn sure that we don't support the Cuban people. The second thing I saw was, oh, all of these influencers spent all of this money when they just could have given it to the Cuban people. How? Do you know that because of the blockade and the sanctions, that United States citizens...
You literally can't.
You can't, dude. You
it's
can't.
Such a crazy...
I love that.
It makes me feel insane.
Bro, why don't we start a GoFundMe for Cuba?
Yeah, bro. It unironically reminds me of like being... like just having the knowledge of what Israel has done for 80 years, like right up, 75 years at that point, like right after October 7, and just like trying to explain to people that would just look at you like you're the biggest monstrous piece of shit of all time, where you're like, I know the truth and I hope one day you will too. And lucky for us, I guess people do now recognize it. At least they're scratching the surface of it, but it's like, it's the same principle here. Like, this machine, this bureaucratic sanctions regime is designed in this insidious way for it to be fucking invisible. So when you actually describe it to people, they look at you and they're like, that's not true. Yeah. So they don't believe you.
Well, and also like...
they don't fucking believe you. You can't send money.
And it's not just about Cuba. It's also like, I think one of the things that people in general, sanctions and like economic policy and the use as an economic weapon. I think that it's one of those things that Americans typically and people on the internet like love to, like they're very blasé about it. They're extraordinarily blasé about it, not recognizing that, in the case of Cuba, for example, Helms-Burton means, it puts incredible restrictions on foreign companies that do business in Cuba. Yeah. Like it's like that. What's that meme where it's like, I consent. Somebody you forgot to ask. Yeah. And that's like everything Cuba does except the person you forgot to ask is the United States. It's like, I think that there's and it's not just Cuba. I mean, Venezuela, it has been the case. And by the way, with these other countries, like Venezuela, for example,
Iran,
or in the case of Syria, where we're pursuing this, rapprochement, like, or changeover, like, the sanctions were kept in place even after Assad had fallen at first, because there is and remains this effort to use, it's a position of basic strategy. It's in the toolkit that every president, every White House, every administration uses, that kind of coercion is acceptable. Even though, I think if we look around the world, we would find that the extent and violence of that coercion and the effect that it has on populations, there's nobody that's doing anything like it that comes even close to the scale at which the United States operates, to the number of countries in which we do it in different places around the globe. And the
Lancet study showed that it was the death toll of America's sanctions regime, which it's complementary to Jeff Stein's piece on Washington Post before he left, was 38 million total. 38 million deaths born out of America's ridiculous sanctions, where we've sanctioned, I believe, 69% of all low-income countries around the fucking planet, forced them to basically create a secondary marketplace in and of itself. It's unfucking believable how cruel it is. And it's designed in this invisible manner. And not only is it designed in this invisible manner, but it's also, it makes you go crazy when you find out about it, when you realize what's going on and you try to explain it to people and people go, nah, that's not real. Listening to Mersheimer talking about Lancet's report that since the early 70s, U.S. sanctions caused millions of deaths and led to ruin equivalent to the worst war. I suppose I could just Google this. but was the Cuba model for this new regime of economic terrorism. Reaching for the nearest LLM tells me that Japan in World War II and China and North Korea preceded Cuba. But still, it seems that the kind of sanctions placed on Cuba in the early 60s did serve as a model for their fuller routine deployment starting in the 70s.
I mean, the way I would periodize it, I mean, like Greg Grandin is literally one of the great historians working today. So, like, permit me like a slight reply to him here. But the way I would put it is that
it's just funny that he's relying on an LLM.
I mean, but it's because you can't Google shit anymore, and that's the exact kind of thing I would Google. But now if you Google it, it's just like, here's what Gemini AI says, and then here's like 20 results of crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that the thing that Cuba distinguished, like the context in which Cuba was placed under embargo. So Eisenhower, it's January 1961. Eisenhower is leaving office. And in the period leading up to Eisenhower leaving office, the U.S. the U.S. agreement to purchase Cuban sugar is voided.
Yeah.
They implement all sorts of measures to punish the Castro government. And then in April of
they openly stated in the CIA this came after, right? The CIA documents that were declassified years later that said that like the primary purpose of the sanctions were for it to be invisible, but to like create great.
It's been made explicit, and we know that like the point of the sanctions was not to produce any like intermediate effect, or it wasn't about what the rhetoric is, which is about punishing the rulers of the country or the whomever. It is about squeezing the country to create pressure from below on the people up top. It's not the other way around. And so, at the time that these, very punitive measures were introduced, well, that's the beginning of 61, right before JFK takes office, and then he keeps it. And then in April 61 is the Bay of Pigs. And ever since that period, and then I would, sort of course, the following year with the missile crisis, we can kind of see, I guess, the beginnings of a Cold War era policy of sanctions regimes as this kind of deadly weapon. And I would argue, to respond to Grandin, that the Cuba model was that. It was a model. And you can point to Korea, you can point to North Korea after the Korean War, you can look at all of these other examples that come a bit earlier. But in terms of, it's hard to describe, just like in the 1960s, what was the biggest CIA field office in the entire world outside of Washington? It was Miami. Cuba was the biggest desk of all of the CIA's task forces going on, perhaps outside of Vietnam. It was the largest. It was where there was an enormous amount of investment of financial resources on the part of the CIA and so on, but it was also a place of clearly experimentation. It was a place where they sought to develop new ways, and there's been like 500 some odd, I think 537 recorded attempts on Castro's life.
I thought it was 600 plus.
It's one of those numbers that no matter what the number you're given is, it's too low, probably. Because I'm including all of the times that the CIA gave like $500 to a guy in a shoebox, and then he went and bought a sound system and didn't do anything.
Yeah. But yeah, here's the State Department memorandum, the decline and fall of Castro secret memorandum that was declassified, but it's from April 6, 1960. Salient considerations of respecting the life of the present government in Cuba are: the majority of Cubans support Castro. The lowest estimate I've seen is 50%. There's no effective political opposition. Fidel Castro and other members of the Cuban government espouse or condone communist influence. Communist influence is pervading the government and the body politic at an amazingly fast rate. The only foreseeable means of alienating internal support is through disenchantment and disaffection based on economic dissatisfaction and hardship.
By the way, this is like exactly a year before the Bay of Pigs takes place.
Yeah.
And so, which means, by the way, that as this happens, so in 1960, like as the presidential campaign is happening, they are putting together the plans and organizing what will be the Bay of Pigs. Quite famously, Allen Dulles briefed both Nixon. Nixon was involved in it, but he briefed JFK as well. And then at a debate, JFK, knowing that Nixon couldn't talk about what was going on, like slammed Nixon for being soft on Cuba, which is a pretty clever move. But the whole this was part of like a whole escalatory program against Cuba that like began in 1960 and literally has not stopped after 65 years.
Unfucking believable shit.
Have sanctions ever worked anywhere? Well, what's worked? Like, Vincent Bevins, the journalist, has made a really compelling. He made a really compelling argument in a Substack that I would highly recommend people to look up. If you Google the phrase "regime collapse," it'll come up. But like, he makes this argument that like a lot of what these policies are designed to do and their effect is not about implementing a regime change. They're not about, you know, really anything other than trying to introduce as much pain as possible to eliminate the conditions of governance, period. And you could say that like by themselves, have they ever worked? I couldn't come up with an answer off the dome. But I do think that when you look at sanctions applied in concert with, you know, kinetic military action, as well as other kinds of diplomatic pressure or isolation, it's incredibly effective. They're very effective. And I think it's really like, the question of like, do they work or not is like, well, they inflict the pain, they inflict the damage, so by that measure they work. You know, it's like, like, does the car get you from point A to point B?
And also,
yes,
it does. It's like it puts the countries in an impossible bind, because like when you're under siege like conditions, and there is like internal instability that will come about as a direct consequence of like economic instability. Then the government's like, okay, well, people are fucking chirping. What do? We have to like arrest some people, you know? And then it's like that repression snowballs into more and more discontent until like it happened in Iran, where America and Israel decide to just like drop the ball and realize that they can't really implement popular mobilization on the ground. So they just decide to directly start bombing the fucking country. But of course, in the case of Iran, which are going to move into now, you know, if that country has hands, all of a sudden they're like, whoa, you're cheating.
I'm sorry. It's not. We were allowed to put military bases in every country that borders